promise. And so, okay, here's my point. A stingy sower will reap meager harvest. The Aramaic can be translated the one who sows with a storehouse of seed, the remaining. This describes a farmer who is stingy with his sowing. Since he has a storehouse of seed, he can afford to sow liberally. A stingy sower will reap meager harvest, but the one who sows from a generous spirit will reap abundant harvest. Praise the Lord. Paul is talking about a principle of the Lord here. This is not just any specific thing just for them. This is a principle of the Lord in which you sow what you reap, right? And like, it's so funny because Satan, this right here, this is a biblical principle. But Satan, what he does is he comes to steal, kill, and destroy. What has he done? He steals biblical, because at the end of the day, this principle, right? This principle of sowing and reaping is a biblical, it's like the gravity, right? It doesn't matter if you're a believer. It doesn't matter if you're an unbeliever. It affects everybody. And so Satan has given it an earthly name, karma. He calls it karma, right? And so because at the end of the day, it's clear, right? This is a clear biblical principle that affects all sectors of life, not just Christians. And so he had to give it a name. He had to call it karma, because if he didn't, it would be like gravity. You know what I mean? Like gravity affects all of us. And so I love this here though. A stingy sower, the Aramaic can be translated the one who sows with the remaining. The one who sows with a remaining, with the remainder, right? When you sow, when you give to the Lord, do you give him after you've spent your paycheck and you got $60 left? Or do you first give him the first of the first, right? That's pretty much what he's saying. He's saying that a stingy sower will, they get their money. They're like, oh, okay, I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to pay for this. I'm going to pay for this. And they're like, oh yeah, God, I got to give money to God too. You know what I mean? And so they give like the last $20 to God. That is a stingy sower. Now, a sower that is Christ-centered, kingdom-focused, as soon as he gets that money, as soon as he gets it, he's like, to God, gotta give God his part, right? Gotta give God what is due to him, right? And this principle, it's not just a principle that applies to money, right? This principle, it's a biblical principle, the principle of sowing and reaping, and it applies to all sectors of life. It applies to everything, right? And this is seen everywhere. So, but the one who sows from a generous spirit will reap an abundant harvest, right? He's not saying the one that sows big amounts. He's saying the one that sows from a generous spirit. So generous for you may just be 20 cents because you don't got that much. While generous for another person may be 20 million, right? It's a position in the heart at the end of the day, how generous you are. It's not the amount. The amount doesn't dictate how generous you are. It is your heart posture, your heart position. Let giving flow from your heart. What did we just say? Not from a sense of religious duty. Praise the Lord. So when you give, don't let it be a religious thing. When you give your 10%, when you give your 7%, when you give your 20% to God, whatever amount the Lord is leading you, don't let it be a religious duty. Don't make it religious. Make it personal. Understand that that's God's money. So I got to give God his part. I got to give God his due, right? Because he's the one that provides. He's the one that gives. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Okay, let giving flow from your heart, not from a sense of religious duty. You see, at the end of the day, we as humans, we tend to default to the religious duty. I was just talking to my dad about this. We tend to go down that train, that rabbit hole of being religious. That's just ingrained in us. I don't know why. I think it talks about it in Ephesians, if I'm not mistaken, but how our heart, like before we even knew Christ, like we're under that, how do I say it? I don't know. There's just like a huge pressure to be religious about everything. Such a huge pressure. It's not biblical though. We're not called to be religious. We're called to relationship, right? Religion, if you look at the definition of religion, it means bondage. Bondage is one of the translations it carries. Religion equals bondage. And our relationship with Jesus Christ is not bondage. Because if it was bondage, the moment you accept Jesus Christ, you'd be completely, you'd be with him 24/7. You would completely stop like, it's not bondage, it's free will involved in it. And bondage doesn't respect free will.